I'm Chef Alexandros, and today we'll be cooking a vegetarian version of the shepherd's pie. We're gonna replace our protein with mushrooms, and we're gonna give the richness and flavor with Epiros feta. Why do we use Epiros feta? Because it's a PDO cheese that gives all the flavor, proper texture, and does not crumble within our shepherd's pie. It's the perfect, ideal substitute to meat or any other protein. So let's get started. We start off by coarsely chopping 3 carrots. This is a wonderful recipe that's popular in the UK and is gaining popularity all over the world. Next, we continue with celery. It's gonna give it that freshness and that amazing flavor that we need. Again, coarsely chopped because we want to feel all the ingredients in our pie. And we proceed to quickly saute them in our frying pan. Because we're giving a Greek twist to all our recipes, we're gonna use, of course, virgin olive oil from Greece. To saute, we always need to have a high flame. So let's start really high, add a healthy amount of olive oil, and throw in our coarsely chopped vegetables. Let's continue by adding some of our onion. About a handful will do great for this recipe. And we'll give it some time until it starts sizzling and starts releasing all those beautiful aromas. Next step is to chop up our mushrooms. Let's keep those pretty coarse as well. We don't want anything to melt while the pie cooks in the oven. For this recipe, we've chosen 3 different types of mushrooms so we can add extra flavor, extra texture, which is gonna complement wonderfully our feta cheese. The mushrooms I'm using for this recipe are 3 different kinds. The one is brown mushroom, the other one are the portobellos, and white mushrooms, or champignons as they're usually called. I prefer to keep them in equal parts because it adds a better balance to the recipe. So let's give our vegetables some time to saute before we proceed adding the mushrooms. The next step we're gonna take is create the puree, the potato mash that's gonna go on top. We can infuse it with some Epiros feta cheese to add it a bit more flavor, and as it grills, it will give it a beautiful golden color. So, our vegetables have started sauteing. Let's give them a quick whisk. There we go. When they start softening, we'll add the mushrooms. As everyone I'm sure knows, the mushrooms need much less time to cook than hard vegetables like celery and carrot and onions. So we need to be a little patient and put them in just in the right time so we can get the perfect texture that we're looking for. What we're looking for is for everything to cook equally. We don't want softer parts in our pie. So let's continue by adding our mushrooms now that our vegetables are starting to saute. We'll mash up some garlic to give it that extra oomph. Just with the side of our knife and a quick chop. And it goes. And our second garlic. Here we go. Continue sauteing, and we can see quickly the change of color. Our vegetables are turning golden, and that is partly due to the wonderful Greek olive oil that we're using. Some beautiful sea salt, and a hearty amount of black pepper. Quick mix around so our spices go all over. This smells fantastic. I wish you guys were here to smell it. What we're gonna also add to our recipe is some rosemary. We're lucky to have some fresh rosemary now that it's springtime, so we'll cut off some. The best way to do it is just pull across, the leaves will come right off. We want them whole in there. We wanna feel them when we're cutting through the pie. Quick saute, we can hear them sizzling, we can smell the aromas coming out of all the vegetables. We have these beautiful aromatic vegetables in here. Onion, carrots, celery, mushrooms. It's stuff that we add to food to give it extra smell, extra texture, extra flavor. And this is what we're doing in this case. Epiros feta is from sheep's and goat's milk. Epiros is a region in Greece with very steep valleys. That is where the goats and sheep grow, where we get our milk to create the cheese. The steepness of the valleys allows the animals to eat plants that grow in no other part of Greece and gives it that difference in flavor and that unique aroma. When our vegetables start turning golden, we're going to use a colander to get rid of the excess liquid because we don't want too much liquid from the vegetables staying in the bottom of our cooking utensil. Quickly remove the vegetables. Look at those beautiful colors. Look at that wonderful flavor that's going to come out of all this. We continue by adding a bit more olive oil. There you go. We've drained the vegetables pretty well so we can get rid of all the excess liquid, as we said. Don't forget that the richness of the Epiros feta cheese is going to provide us all the taste and the oomph we need. So don't worry that we're losing any by removing the liquids. Back in the pan, and it's time to add our chopped tomatoes. Perfect. Give them a good whisk. Add enough vegetable stock just to cover them. Perfect. One last shake so all the juices go around. And turn our heat halfway down. We're gonna allow this to simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes or until most of the liquid is gone. So now let's move to our next step, which is preparing the mash that's gonna go on top of the shepherd's pie. Here we have peeled, boiled potatoes and salt water. So we're gonna add around 4 potatoes, which is more than enough for the size of the utensil we're using today. And we're gonna give them this wonderful quick mash. Don't forget to season your potatoes. Potatoes need a healthy amount of salt and pepper because they tend to be quite bland if not. Fantastic. Some pepper. We're gonna grate in some nutmeg. Add our butter, about a full spoon, and continue mashing. When we start infusing all this together, we're gonna continue creating a better texture by adding our milk. We just need the butter to be incorporated properly before we do that. There you go. Add your milk slowly while you're crushing. You don't want it too soggy. You want it to stay up there and create that wonderful crust that the shepherd's pie is famous about. Like promised before, because there's never enough feta in our dish, we're gonna crush some feta in the potatoes. That's gonna cook on the top and it's gonna get this golden color that we always look for when cooking shepherd's pie. Not too much, because we're gonna have a healthy amount of feta cheese in the actual dish. There you go. A quick mix, infusing all these beautiful materials. Maybe another splash of milk just to get it the right texture. And we're almost done. The next step is to wait for our vegetables to simmer properly before we start assembling our dish. Let's put that aside and see how we're doing with our vegetables. Ooh, they smell just fantastic. We're gonna wait a bit more for the liquids to reduce, add our feta, give it a quick whisk so all the aromas spread around, and then we're gonna start assembling our dish. Our vegetables are almost ready. Most of the liquid is evaporated and it's about time to add our Epiros feta cheese. Take it off the heat and add our feta cheese cut in large pieces, as you can see. We want to keep them there. We want to taste them when the pie is ready. Quick shake for all the taste to go around. And look at this. It's what I was telling you before. You can see that the feta cheese does not crumble. It does not break. That shows the good quality of the cheese. We're gonna fill it up now, and after putting the mash over it and baking it, we're gonna have whole pieces of melted, fantastic, and rich feta cheese. Let's move to the next step. Get our wonderful oven pot and spoon in the vegetable and the feta mix. We want to get it 3/4 up, not too much because we have the mash we need to fill up. So let me get all the pieces of cheese in there because I don't want to miss those. Fantastic. Spread them around. And now it's time to spoon over the mash. I'm gonna remind you that we also put some feta in the mash. This is gonna give us a nice golden crisp. Carefully put chunks of the potato. You wanna spread them out evenly. It is essential to have them evenly spread out so they can cook equally. You don't want raw bits of potato in your mash. Oh, look at that wonderful cheese, how it just stands there. Even though it's really hot, even though it went into the boiling mixture of vegetables, it's right there, giving out its aromas. You can almost feel that you're at the valleys of Epiros. It's very important to seal it really well because this basically works as a cover. It's like our pot cover. It's gonna keep all the steam, all the aromas, all the flavors inside as the vegetables and the feta cook slowly. Almost done. Covered, make sure it's spread out evenly. Just give it a quick spread, a quick turn with the spoon. Make it smooth so it's beautiful and presentable so you can show your friends and your family what you've prepared. Oh, I'm really looking forward for this to be done. There you go. A couple of knobs of butter just to help it with the color. Not that it really needs it because we got the feta cheese in the mash, but why not? A bit of extra flavor. That's about it. Into the oven at 180 degrees for almost 20 minutes or until the top of the mash starts turning golden brown. And now be patient.